hear about top concerns facing Native nations. Tribal history, language, and culture is also part of Indigenous life. Check out our headline news service to learn more. Tune in here for National Native News.
Weekdays at 5:55 on KSJE Farmington. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, which is officially baby-friendly. This evidence-based initiative is designed to support mother-baby bonding and optimal infant feeding practices by upholding the 10 steps to successful breastfeeding. San Juan Regional Medical Center, officially baby-friendly, and serving the Four Corners since 1910. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Ten minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Wednesday morning, January 29th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Micklin, and this is KSJE, 90.9 FM over the air in San Juan County, 103.3 FM over the air now in Durango, Colorado, and everywhere at ksje.com. Special good morning also to our viewers who are watching our visual radio program. We are streaming video live to the KSJE Facebook page and YouTube channel this morning. Welcome, everyone. We're glad that you are with us. Our topic is education. My guest here in the studio is Farmington Municipal School Superintendent Dr. Eugene Schmidt. We'll be talking with Dr. Schmidt in the next few moments right here on KSJE about issues affecting education in Farmington schools and some of his recent trips to Santa Fe to talk with state legislators during this 30-day session. So we hope you'll stay tuned for that. It's coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Later on this hour, we'll be talking with communications professor Dr. Mike Hadabaugh from the Encouragement Lab, and Dr. Hadabaugh has some comments about love as we lead up to Valentine's Day next month. It'll be here before you know it, 2 weeks from now, so stay tuned for that later on this morning about 8:50 a.m. on KSJE. Mick Hess is playing music from Tchaikovsky. It is his Serenade for Strings on the program, Roving with the Arts at 9:06 this morning, and then our local and regional author program, Right on Four Corners. Tracy Hales-Vass is speaking with author Donnell Bell about her latest book called Black Pearl. You'll hear that interview today at 10:30 on KSJE. Don't forget, of course, in addition to Facebook and YouTube, you can follow us on Twitter and connect with us on Instagram as well. Weather forecast, we are expecting a chance of scattered rain and snow showers throughout the day today. It's cloudy out there right now with no rain so far. Our current temperature 28 degrees in Farmington, on our way to a high of 44. More chances for snow showers tonight with a low of 22. Partly sunny skies tomorrow with a high of 45. More sunshine on Friday with a high of 45. Sunny and 49 on Saturday, and sunny and 54 by Sunday. And we always say that visual radio can take you places, so this morning we'll take you. How about ice skating? This is New York City, Bryant Park in Manhattan, where it is 34 degrees under partly sunny skies, and the temperature on its way to 42 in New York today with an overnight low of 26. A bit breezy on the skating rink this morning, so the wind chill feels like about 26 degrees. Well, let me turn to my guest, who is here with me this morning to talk about Farmington schools. Dr. Eugene Schmidt is here. Dr. Schmidt, welcome back to KSJE. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you, Scott, and a good morning to all of our listeners on KSJE Radio.
Thank you. It's great to have you here to talk about Farmington schools and what's been going on. As I mentioned, there are a lot of things that are on our list to talk about today as we take a look. Some of the things that you've been doing in Santa Fe, some of the accolades that one of your schools has gotten, I know that we'll be talking about this morning, and some other trends and talk about how some of your students are doing. And so let's get right to it.
Yes, and so for our listeners and our viewers, a great many stories to tell today. We have celebrations. We have the work being done by our state legislature. We have some nice compliments to what the school district has implemented this past semester to improve graduation rates. And there's a whole bunch of miscellaneous things that I think that the community would be interested in. But let's just start with Blue Ribbon Day at the legislature. So
yes, let's talk about that. And so you and some others were at in Santa Fe, right, to talk about this?
Yes, to backlog a little bit of history, the state since 1982 has been interested in what are schools doing to raise proficiency, student achievement, closing achievement gaps, And this was an initiative that actually started under Ronald Reagan as president.
Okay.
So we're taking back a little history in time.
Yeah, that goes back a few years. Yes, sir.
But the federal government, along with state governments, wanted to honor and recognize those schools who were doing something significant in trying to raise student achievement. So a blue ribbon was created, and the fans know that we went back to Washington, D.C., Principal Maestas. We went back and were recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. So Farmington is making history in a kind of a double bounce.
Right.
At the federal level, we were the first school. Ladera del Norte Elementary is the first school to ever be recognized on the U.S. Department of Education website for the work that we are doing, and Principal Maestas and her staff are doing to close the achievement gap. We came back from Washington, D.C., and I approached Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales, the Public Education Department, said this is a celebration worth celebrating twice.
Right.
And so we had a day in the Roundhouse. It was Education Day last Thursday, and the 3 blue ribbon schools from New Mexico, a early college high school from Albuquerque, Logan Elementary, which is over kind of on the what I would call West Texas,
okay,
and Ladera del Norte were honored on the floor of both the House and the Senate. And so in a minute, I'm going to give a shout out to Representative Montoya and Senator Scheer for introducing the Farmington delegation. But what I wanted to share with the community, not only are our schools being recognized for their academic achievement, but now we are in the long storied history of New Mexico, because a proclamation was issued in the name of Ladera del Norte, recognizing them for their achievements. So we are in the chronicle of history that will be preserved as long as New Mexico State is around for the work that that school and other blue ribbon schools have achieved. So good for Principal Maestas, her team. I think that sets a challenge to my other schools. It's a hard award to get. Mm-hmm. So envision.
Well, it's measurable, right? I mean, this is actually the result of how your students are doing at Ladera.
Yes, and that's right. It's actually something that we can look at numbers, the proficiency growth of students over time, and that's what makes this award particularly special, because there are probably 900 schools in New Mexico, public and private. The state looks at, you have to have at least 3 years of continued growth. And in Ladera's, it's even harder because subgroups have to improve faster than the normal or the average group of kids. And so when you look at that mini giant pool of 900, eventually over 3 years, it gets down to about 20. So this is the exclusive club of the best schools in New Mexico, for which only 3 were chosen. So statistically, you look at 3 divided by 900, it is a small percent and a reason to be celebrated. And
right.
So we're excited that the Lieutenant Governor and Governor issued a proclamation in the school's name. We're part of New Mexico history.
Very good. Well, congratulations. And we're showing a picture of some very happy 4th and 5th graders, I guess, from Ladera, who got to go to Santa Fe as well, right?
Yeah, it was a hoot for the kids who, I think that's what we are here for. So while Principal Maestas was being introduced on the floor and got a round of applause, when Representative Montoya and Senator Scheer, who introduced our delegation, turned around and said, and let's have the kids stand up in the back, and that's when the round of applause by our state delegation and all those people in attendance really took off, because we brought down 32 kids just as kind of ambassadors from Farmington. And they had a wonderful lesson in civic government, and I know had a wonderful time going to the Meow Wolf Museum after.
Oh, well, there you go. Right, that is a must-see in Santa Fe.
It is a must-see.
That's a great lesson, I think, a full day's worth of stuff for those kids. And so congratulations again to you and your staff, and great to be able to celebrate these achievements. And as you mentioned, they are well chronicled now in the annals of our state history and federal education history as well. Another issue we want to ask you a little bit about is a job fair at Rocinante High School, right?
Yeah, and I'll celebrate this as well. This is a thank you to our community who envisions a better future for our graduates. And Rocinante, working in collaboration with probably about 20 business leaders from town, set up a job fair where kids had to come in and do live interviews, and the students were then, I will say, hired as interns to come in and job shadow the work that they have chosen as a profession. So if you're in the medical field, you might have interviewed for a position as an intern in one of our local regional medical centers or something. Or if you wanted to learn how to maybe be an auto mechanic at one of our auto dealerships. It was really an exciting and interesting day, and it was a fun opportunity for kids who've never had to face a serious interview, and literally maybe have never tied a tie.
Right.
But through this process, learned the importance of what are those job skills to sell yourself. How do you prepare that resume? What is that story, that elevator speech we sometimes talk about that kids have? So how do you sell yourself in speed dating with employers?
Well, sure. And just talking to a stranger, I know as an instructor of public speaking here at San Juan College, that's one of students' worst fears, is having to get up in front of a stranger or group of strangers and talk to them. And so having skills like this, I think, would really help them with that.
Yes, I was really proud of our kids because I had a chance to talk to them before their interviews began and reassure them that it's going to be a wonderful experience. but still, to have that first step out, and what a wonderful thing for our business community to do as a partnership with our schools to create that. We care about our kids. We want them to see what they might do as adults. That sets a goal for kids, but it also reconnects them. So why am I in school again? It connects
what's
them
the point
to
of all this?
What's the point? And that's a great way to say it, is why am I here doing this 9 to 5 school stuff every day? Well, it's because somebody's out there waiting for you to be hired and bring you into the business world. And that's how you launch yourself in your future. So good for our businesses.
Well, right, and we want all these kids to be productive members of society, and so when they can see kind of that light at the end of the tunnel as they're going through school and can keep going and graduate and get out there into the job market, I think that's a great thing.
Yes, and so for those businesses out there, this is my challenge, is that it was fun having 20 businesses. It'd be nice to have 50 next year.
Okay.
And so if you're interested, we have Jose Villarreal and Janelle Cummins and Korth Ellsworth, who are involved in this workforce-based program. If you have that interest, call the district office or send me an email, and we will get you on that list of future internship providers for our kids.
Okay, very, very good. School board also making a trip to Santa Fe. It wasn't just your Ladera Elementary School folks. The school board was there meeting with representatives and local delegation. We've got some pictures on the screen, I think, too, of those folks who are traveling around, right?
Yes, we want our community to be really proud of the school board from Farmington, who very purposefully set aside at least 3 days a year, excuse me, to meet with our legislatures and talk about those educational issues that are important. And to give the community a sample, even before the legislature opened this past January, I think it was 15th, was our first day, 110 educational issues had been pre-filed. And so even though it's a 30-day session, there is a lot of conversation going on about what is the future of education. And in particular, there seems to be a lot of interest in early childhood education.
Right.
There seems to be a lot of interest in career and technical education. So there's a lot of financial asks to the legislature, certainly on Farmington's behalf. And as an example, we chose 4. We had 4 asks. One is that the state continue to honor the teaching profession as professionals by raising salaries. And the legislature did really well last year. There was a 6% raise. There's talk of, depending upon what legislature, 3, 5, or maybe even a 6%. I suspect they'll probably settle at 4%.
Right.
But continue to honor the work of teachers as a profession by raising salaries is important. The importance of school security was a message we tried to bring. We have a partnership with the city that provides school resource officers, and those are things we'd like to continue. And one way that maybe will help make that more affordable is for the state to change the way we look at pensions or retirements, so retired police officers could come to work back into the school system as school resource officers.
They've already got the training as former police officers, and the idea is if they were to go back into the workforce, that may harm some of their pension benefits.
Yes,
and if the law hasn't changed, I guess is the idea, right?
And that seems to be what happens is once you're retired, you don't get the benefit of any further income that you may earn, even though you're still paying
into the system.
Paying into the system. So,
Okay.
so we're trying to get some relief because we believe that there are retired police officers that would love to be a part of the school safety scene. And we have this, we're working in partnership with the city to try and convince the state legislature. Again, school security is an important issue. We want our kids and our staff feeling safe. The fact that there are police officers or school security in the buildings adds to that culture that, okay, they'll take care of the safety. Let's get on to the job of education. So school security officers and school safety was important. We also gave a strong conversation about career and technical education, joining with many other voices. Mm-hmm. And in the school board's ask, we suggested that the state set aside $50 million. The legislature has, in the budget, put $17 million. And there were active conversations that maybe they would double that. So I do feel like my board has had a voice in raising that. We need to teach kids how to work in blue-collar trades and to go back and revisit what does that look like. So
17 is not enough, you feel?
17 is not enough. Last year
for the whole state. This is for not just for Farmington, but
right.
for the whole state.
Yes, it's the whole state, and again, that would help provide equipment, maybe room space, provide additional teachers, and then the last one was the importance of a national board certified teachers. Farmington very aggressively has been encouraging teachers through our financial support to apply for a national board certified teacher. National boards are considered the best of the best. Mm-hmm. We have 19. Would love to have 740.
Right.
And so we are very aggressively working with national boards on how to get more teachers to this even higher level. So consider it equivalent to a master's or even a doctorate. And it's just a very intensive year, sometimes as long as 3, and teachers going through reflective practices, presenting through video and or written story to the national boards as to why their teaching practice is or should be recognized mm-hmm. at this national best level. So again, we had some very specific asks. We felt like the legislators were interested in our story. The conversations were very positive, even though it comes in the form of elevator speeches because the legislators are busy people. But
right.
But consistently, what we were told by legislators that we talked to and others that were observing the behavior of the Farmington board felt that our board was the most prepared in understanding those 110 new bills that had been pre-filed, and even the ones that were being filed as
you're standing there, probably, yes.
Standing in the
right.
building. So good for our school board that goes to put out the message that public education in Farmington is important and that the decisions of the legislature do have impact.
Right. Showing some pictures now on the screen too, Dr. Schmidt, about meeting with other folks, other representatives in Santa Fe, not just the local delegation, but others as well, and the lieutenant governor as well.
Yes.
It looks like you gave him a T-shirt.
Yes, and so I'll talk about pictures that the non-viewers...
I know, I always I sometimes forget about our radio audience, and I apologize, radio audience, but we are showing photos of some of the Farmington School Board members on their trip to Santa Fe, meeting with Senator Stewart in one picture, and then Lieutenant Governor Morales in the other picture.
Yes, as well as Representative Strickle and Montoya and
That's
Senator
right.
Scheer. So we thank our local delegation, but we tried to get a double out of this. Roberta Rogers, who works for San Juan Regional Medical Center, is promoting Farmington Rocks.
Okay.
And so we, as part of our circle around the legislature in our meeting with the Lieutenant Governor Morales, we presented a Farmington Rocks T-shirt to let them know that our community does rock. You know, the tourism board is Jolt Your Journey to Farmington. So when we get out of town, we talk a lot about you need to come to Farmington to see what real world is going on, and that people helping people at that local level make a difference. And so Farmington Rocks, Jolt Your Journey.
Very good.
And rising to excellence in every pursuit are messages that we continue to promote.
That is it. And I imagine the environment in Santa Fe is a little bit different in years when there is a budget surplus than in years when maybe there isn't so much money rolling around in the state coffers. Would you maybe agree with some of that as well?
So I appreciate that comment, because this is the start of my 5th year in Farmington, and 3 of those years it has been budget shortfalls, perhaps thoughts of cutting education or at least reducing funding, and those conversations used to be, just don't hurt us.
Right. I remember having them with you in this very room. Yes, sir.
Just don't hurt us. But now the conversation is, we have a chance through this windfall of profits that we recognize, will be available for probably 5 to 10 years.
Right.
So in the decision, certainly set aside money for the future, but also take this opportunity to do stimulus investments. For example, that career and technical education, or helping us to front fund early childhood education. The legislators, bless our hearts, really were interested in having conversations because it is easier. Yes, we have money. Yes, I think we can help, is a whole different conversation. You know what? We're just trying to hang on till tomorrow.
Right. Right. And I know your colleague, Superintendent Carpenter from Aztec,
Yes.
is concerned a little bit about cash balance and some of those things as well. And so I imagine this might be a time to maybe try to replenish some of those savings accounts and things like that for years when maybe the cash isn't so flush.
That was an interesting side of this last 3 days that we spent in Santa Fe, because I think the legislators are trying to understand school districts have cash balances. And so for our listeners, we have a $95 million budget.
Just for Farmington
Just
schools.
for Farmington schools,
Right.
for public education. And of that, about $85 million comes from the state, with another 10 from the federal government. But we really are trying to focus that as an investment in the future of our kids. And so when we talk to the legislature, they're interested in the cash balance. We have a board policy that sets aside 7% of that $95 million. And that's kind of your rainy day fund, your carryover funds, because there are times when we submit monthly requests for reimbursement for expenses, the different SCGs and federal. Sometimes they're slow to arrive. If it weren't for cash reserve, then we might be at risk financially to make payroll. So the interesting conversation, and Scott, that I think that our listeners will be trying to understand is, the state would like to have a 32% cash reserve. And so when we have a 7,
Right.
they began to wonder why. And we said, well, we'd love to have a 32% as well, just to make sure that,
Right.
we can, I think they say, make at least 2 or 3 months of payroll or something, as you do maybe in your own home budget.
Ideally, right. You would want to do that. That's true.
But great conversations at the state legislature. It's easier to talk about money when there is than when there isn't.
That's true. Very true. Let me ask you a bit about some other numbers we want to share with the audience as well. These are some interesting achievements, again, as we look at the screen. We have a graduation trend for Farmington schools. We also have some algebra scores, it looks like, for a percentage of passing students, right? So explain to us what we're looking at here, Dr. Schmidt, on the screen. And for our radio audience who can't see the numbers, we'll explain them to you as well.
Yeah, so I'll let you read the numbers, but I'll explain what's going on.
We have Farmington High School PV and San Juan College High School students compared from 2019 to 2020. Their ninth grade percentage pass results is what we're looking at, right? So the story behind the story is that at the ninth grade level, there are key indicators that we try to understand as a pathway to graduation or dropping out. And so you look at, in your freshman year, how many credits did you achieve? Because if you got 7, which is what we'd expect, you're on your pathway to hitting 24 by your senior year. We look at the number of course passages, we look at GPAs, we look at how many referrals might a student have, and attendance. So attendance, referrals, accumulation of credits, GPA. So what we found is, looking backwards, so this is Eugene now being in Farmington for 5 years, the typical passage rate for algebra at the ninth grade has been 50%. And so we've been experimenting or trying different kinds of approaches to improve the passage rate of freshmen in algebra, because if I can get them that credit and that GPA and that attendance and that absence of discipline, we believe that they're going to be heading towards graduation. So this year, we are trying something we are calling stacked math. And stacked math is actually a double dose. You take an hour of theory, or how to do math, and then you spend an hour practicing, connecting it to real-world problems. So it's actually 90 minutes of math as opposed to maybe 50. Okay, stacked on top of each other. So you kind of have two class periods back to back.
And so what the viewers would see and the listeners would be interested in knowing is that in 2019 at Farmington High, for example, 66% of kids passed first semester algebra using this new model for the first time ever. We jumped that to 71%, and we saw that, curiously, that same jump at Piedra Vista from 75% basically up to 80%. And so when you talk 5% of 600, that's a big number.
Right. And that's what we're talking about.
And that's what we're talking about. How do we get even more kids on their pathway to graduation? So then that leads us to the next portion of this slide that the viewers can see, but the non-viewers can't.
Right.
And
well, let me shout out to San Juan College High School, because we don't have numbers from 2019, but the ninth grade algebra grades was 100% for them. And so...
And I guess if I would predict if I went backwards, I'd find that same 100%. And so we are interested in what Farmington San Juan College High School is doing, because they're not doing the double stack. They do a year's worth of algebra in a semester. And so when I look at that 100%, Scott, that's kids who have passed a whole year of algebra. They're already taking the second semester a year's worth of geometry. So we are trying to understand that as a different, I'll call it, educational experiment. How is it possible that you can take 80 or 100 kids in a semester, basically in a quarter of the time that's PV and Farmington are doing this, and have 100%? And so we're trying to understand that model and how that maybe could be replicated as a future model as well.
Sure.
Is there something to be said about accelerating as opposed to slow walking? And so I appreciate that. That shout out to SJCHS.
Right, exactly. Go Griffins. And so if we look at the other screen then, that then takes us to this graduation trend and the graduation rates, I would say, for the schools, correct? And that's what you're hoping, that by improving these math scores in the ninth grade, these students are going to stick with it and will be more up to graduate at 12th grade.
Yes, that's our educational theory of action. Is that if we can cause something at the freshman level that is better than the past, it's going to lead to a greater than expected graduation rate in the future. So our community would be very interested in knowing that we've just been kind of floating along, 71, and then we slipped back to 66. For Farmington as a district, we went from 71% algebra passing at that to, actually the graduation rate, up to 74 so in
Over 2 years.
over 2 years. And so when you look at maybe 900 kids, a growth of 4% is a big number. It's a lot of kids to raise even 1 percentile when you're talking 900 kids. And so that's 30 or more times 5 to get to those numbers. So it's a big number.
Right.
So anyhow, FHS, that went last year, it was, so these are lagging indicators, and by that means the data is a year old. And so in 2017, as an example, Farmington High, 67.8% graduation rate. In 2018, that was 83.6, which is above the national average. And so we're pleased that the things that are happening at the high school with credit recovery, with maybe learning recovery, things that happen more quickly, they think are causing a difference in the graduation rates. And so it's something we'll continue to track.
Very good. Well, congratulations again. They're going in the right direction, so I know it makes you pleased, and so that's important.
Yeah, up is good.
Up is good, exactly. And we just have a couple of minutes remaining, Dr. Schmidt, this morning. So in our final minutes together, there's a few miscellaneous things to note, and that is, of course, you always want to keep an eye on the audits and the financials, and the district got a pretty good audit this year.
Yes, and so I'll be quick because there's a lot to talk about yet. Community, be assured that the school spends its money well, and that the auditors once again have awarded or presented Farmington an unmodified, which is the best financial report that you can give. And we will continue to try and understand. This year we're going to add a second layer. We're going to conduct not just a financial, but we're also going to do a performance audit. And that means that we're going to bring in outside experts who will look at the amount of money that we're spending on a program and then help us determine what was the return on investment. You know, for example, we spend a lot of money on early release. We send the kids home, the teachers are going through professional development. You know, we would want the community to know that that investment of teacher professional development time is a return on investment through enhanced and higher quality instruction during the week. Right. Because of that professional development. So return on investment.
All right.
Should be an exciting performance audit.
Good to know. A little note about the importance of the upcoming census, and I will be doing much more programs on KSJE about the census and with you about how important it is to the schools to make sure every person who's living in the school district is counted, and so that's important as well.
Yes, and so to our listeners, I would say when you get that census packet in the mail, sign it, fill it out, and send it back, because that count is important to our school district, our county, our state, in terms of federal dollars flowing back into this as an investment in the future of our kids. So send back your census data.
Right. And then, as you've already mentioned, the district will be featured at the U.S. Department of Education website for your Blue Ribbon School and all of your high-performing students there, and some other things, too. Been invited to talk about your successes at some conferences.
Yes, and so again, very quickly, people are interested in what's going on in Farmington. Farmington is rapidly setting a trend in academic achievement, growth in graduation rates that is generating kind of a national buzz. We talked about the U.S. Department of Education,
right,
but the American Association of School Administrators, my group, the superintendents, has invited Farmington to present in March, explaining what's going on. We just received an invitation from the National Principals Conference. So Farmington has a voice that is raising the curiosity of the nation. So I want to applaud our leaders and our teachers and say, let's keep it up.
Very good. Well, congratulations again. It sounds like, Dr. Schmidt, I may need to talk to School Board President Carl Rhodes to keep you locked in your office so someone can't take you away from the district. But
it's a wonderful story.
But congratulations. And it's so great to have you here to share it with us and our listeners, and for folks to be able to see how well, and hopefully parents can see how well their students are doing and are seeing a difference in their students going to Farmington schools.
Yes, my belief is kids come home, what were you doing today? How do you enjoy school? Those are going to be very positive stories.
Very good. We'll see you in a month.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Eugene Schmidt, my guest here from Farmington Schools, right here on KSJE. This program on KSJE is supported by Citizens Trust and Investment Corporation, providing a competent, innovative and caring team of professionals to serve wealth management, trust administration, employee benefit plans, retirement planning, and estate settlement needs. Find out more about Citizens Trust and Investment Corporation at 505-599-0181.